The 2000s will forever be known to us as the decade that brought us the tower defense genre. At first, it was a breath of fresh air, making an easier RTS that was about surviving waves of enemies with light based building. Then, it became one boring knockoff after another. But today, ladies and gentlemen, the tower defense genre is getting a good resurgence. That's not just trying to do the old thing all over again, but adding a unique twist, mixing genres together. And Nordholm is one such game, and I tried out its demo during the recent Steam Next Fest. I thought you would like to know about this game. It's quite a special one. Firstly, yes, it's easy. But there's so much depth in terms of different little systems, but never to the point of being overwhelming. It's, how shall I put it, very wide but shallow, which I guess is the opposite of deep. But I'm getting ahead of myself, let me explain. You start off thinking of this as a city builder plus tower defense. You realize pretty quickly that the city building is limited. Not really like a city builder. The city building portions are just nodes you build predefined buildings on to get, your different resources. Resources which you will obviously need to build towers to defend your village. Beyond resource buildings, there are buildings that allow your villagers to be more productive, or to pay more taxes, or to reduce the cost of towers. More buildings will be unlocked as you progress in the game. First order of the day is to build towers with the resources you have. It is, after all, a tower defense. But Nordholm is also procedurally generated. The paths never stay the same from one run to another. Yes, I said one run to another. Because Nordholm is also a roguelite, where loss is the path forward. The first few runs are nearly impossible to win. You'll need to lose and unlock new stuff that will improve your chance of surviving longer. There's a shield, a barrier that blocks your village from being destroyed. Once it runs out of life, it's game over. And I've seen the screen here many times, but it's not over. As I said, roguelite and all that jazz. You gain honor points which you can invest to give you a better start. Start with more gold or more villagers. It's making you a little bit more stronger, more survivable from the get-go. Early on, I thought that the best strategy was just to plonk down towers along the path as soon as you could afford them. Stupid me. But I quickly realized that this just handicapped me, as I couldn't handle later waves that were more numerous and challenging. I need more resource to build more towers, as there is an inflationary increase of tower costs with each build. So you really need to go in with a plan of how much you want to invest in plonking down towers in the early stage, which maybe you could do with just a single tower to take down the easy creep. I did better this time when I avoided getting more towers too early and were more careful about where I placed them. You can put them down in these hexes here that are more elevated, that give your tower more range. But I also realized that paths that look like this, a U-turn, twisty, turning, bendy paths, instead of a straight path, gave me a bigger advantage. That slowed down the enemy and gave my towers more opportunities to take pot shots at them as they traveled. Straight line, bad. Curvy paths, good. That's easy to understand. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, you gain resources in the economy phase, which happens right after you complete a wave. So you won't be getting resources while a wave is in progress. Wave 10 is a boss wave. I died many times to this boss, which, by the way, if a boss gets to your village shield, it doesn't take like a life point away. It's just over right there and then. So you want to make sure you prepare for wave 10, but it's doable if you have enough armor penetrating shots. So remember, don't forget to upgrade those towers. Upgrading the towers, speaking of upgrading the towers though, that's quite interesting. And counter to how the cost of towers are calculated, upgrades actually deflate in price. Yes, instead of getting more expensive, they get cheaper over time when you don't actually upgrade them. And you get a bunch of free upgrades if you wait. You just have to wait. But if you spend money upgrading, they will inflate for a bit before deflating when you stopped purchasing upgrades. So rather than spending money on upgrades and stuff, I just waited until I can get the free upgrade as the tower leveled up. And that was fine for me. I might tweak this if I wanted to have a more perfect run. The more I played Nordhold, more mechanics were introduced. It has this almost Slay the Spire like quality. Things that completely change your fate, that boost you, or even make things difficult, like there is a marketplace that sells you stuff that changes things. I didn't spend much on these things. I rather keep the gold for these runestone towers, which were really the MVP in my game. There are also these banners you get at specific wave intervals that also strengthen you with some powerful upgrades. These are only for that one game you play and don't carry over into your next game. As I mentioned earlier, you unlock new stuff after each game, so you gain these honor points which you spend to purchase permanent boost to your resources, so you will start off on a stronger footing. This meta progression is what drives the replayability of Nordhold and makes it somewhat unique. I wouldn't say that this is a completely 100% original idea here, but in terms of other tower defense game, it has its own flavor to it. It adds its own flavor to it. I also quickly realized that being too focused on one or two areas to overload with towers is also not a great strategy, as at later waves you will get creeps that die and release fast moving dudes that will swamp your towers, and you might miss them and lose that shield health. So then I shifted to a strategy that I think was even better. Don't focus too hard on only one or two sections, but spread the damage across the creep travel path. Use the twisty paths as the first choice to place your towers. I found that if you can slowly chip away at the health of creeps earlier on along the path, it would reduce the load on the towers down the line and reduce the risk of a few lucky creeps escaping your tower's attacks. Now, I have to clarify that the demo only had up to like 20 waves, and the final game, which releases on March 26, will have 30 waves, and difficulty will ramp up slower than the demo, which was made to be even more tougher to make up for the reduced number of waves. It was pretty darn challenging. I managed to survive up to like wave 18, that was my best, but I thoroughly enjoyed the whole gameplay loop of like optimizing my tower, my economy, my strategy and all that. I really liked what Nordholm had to offer. It had all the bells and whistles systems in place for a wide game, but never too deep to be overly complicated. This is just a fun, a deeper tower defense game, deeper in terms of like being really wide compared to a plain vanilla tower defense game. Maybe I shouldn't use the term deep as I mentioned, but more strategic. Yeah, it's I would say it's a more strategic tower defense game that I think anyone can jump into. The resource management, the selecting the banners all remind me of Slay the Spire, which is really good. Anyway, tell me in the comments if you've played this demo, what did you think of it? Do you like tower defense games, and which ones do you think are really good that I should really check out? I've not really played tower defense games for a long time, since I believe it was the last game I played was like Anomaly Warzone Earth, which also wasn't your typical tower defense. But yeah, it's been a while. Another one I'm really looking forward to is like Cataclysmo, which like I think that game looks brilliant and is doing really interesting things. By the way, if you like this video, do attack that like button. It helps this small channel quite a bit. I recently did a video about a new game Relic Entertainment was working on. It's not a tower defense game, but it's also not an RTS game as well. So check out this video over here on Earth vs Mars. Thank you so much for watching and farewell, noble friends.